yeah, Monica was Meitheal Ráth chuid sleán an.
Well, bunny me an trí leis an share screen. Caithi me an play from start. Okay, we got in a now nation echo. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to scale them in and got echo me hin. Okay, so is ealaíontóir me agus tá mé lonnaithe I Rathangan. So bhí báta den áram nuair a fuair me studio Sealbach ó Bord na Móna and we had our industrial site atá acu go fóil. So as an artist who works in a small rural town, well, was a small rural town in Rathangan, I was really lucky to be able to negotiate a studio on the site of the bog. Now, this isn't actually the studio here, but this was a little hut that I chui me amachta gumleshkel na tame terej hopping a little bit here. Yeah, gumleshkel shin studio. Agus anish an dara slaunan. So Tommy Jamaiher an Bogavalan 209 agus vi desigumsa veheg lauch linadini a via gobran agus fer nadini a via gobran ni ra manaile an sieve. Nur a vies a kainch le kijin nadini. Hug me gur few notia kamad an tahi or ibra a viakul. E giri tishkent nis fara oil an nask idir on portaigh agus an dinner. So while speaking with some of the men on the site, I realized the value of their connection with the peatland and began to note down with their approval some of the things they were telling me, because there were things that I would not remember. So we would sit down in the studio that I showed you, and here's what John, who is now retired and who worked as a supervisor, spoke about. 90% of people who work for Bord na Móna come from a rural background. Nobody wants to see waterways polluted. Peat production is similar to open cast mining. What's done is done. The board will be out of peat production in a few years, and it sees its exit strategy as no longer cutting raised bogs. Now, Visha Shini Ga Mila is a knee, so that was in 2009, as you see there. So Cúla mé scéalta óna fuair faoin na glossary a chuir siad síos ar an portaigh idir caréidí agus prátaí, agus cúla mé go rinne Bord na Móna agus teagask roint taide faoi elephant grass agus blueberries is a lehéid. I began to hear stories from the men about vegetables they grew on the bog, like carrots and spuds, and heard about the trials of elephant grass and blueberries that Bord na Móna and Teagask had carried out. Now, interestingly, the spuds and the carrots grew really, really well. The elephant grass did not grow at all, and they spent ages trying to grow that one. And the blueberries, they actually brought in, while the frohans were growing wild, they brought in the wild, or the high American blueberry bush, which may also grow in Canada. So there had been, as you can see with this little painting here, so I was sort of painting and mapping things as I went along. I had heard from Michael Jacob about a blueberry plant project that had been happening under his watch when he was with Teagask. And then Foss took it over, and even though everything was growing really, really well, for some reason Foss closed it down. So we were able to go after the ones that had been abandoned. So we just took some of them and transplanted them. Agus, Shine an Thora. So this was the result. So Visha anan hard of a simul vehek smin of our hade and road a yenamish nor be an exit plan egg Bord na Móna. So it was really interesting to hear some of the men talking about what they would like to see when the day came for exiting. There was no talk of wind turbines at that stage. So it was very much around what could be used and also other ideas, which I'll talk about later. So now I'm actually having problems here with stuff on top of this. Why is that? Sorry, apologies now. Some of my screen seems to be a little bit blocked, but I can try and move. I probably need to stop viewing. Is there a way that I can get rid of all of our faces? For some reason, I can't see some of the Kitchen Rudatá Scríf Gums and Shaw.
We can see your screen, okay?
You can see it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so on Clá. So the bhar an obair a bhí ar siúla gom bhíos I deagháil daoine sa cheantar a bhí simachús an portaigh. Is dár na háite sa dúra agus bhunaimid an grúpa Creative Rathangan Meitheal I 2017. Fuair mar Joontas ó éire Ildánacha chud clár Cruthaitheachta a chur I bhain. Na príomhghníomhanna atá agéin ná taide, cardna, seminars, co-aibrú interdisciplinach. So because I was in touch with local people who are also interested in bogs, in local history, in natural habitats, Creative Rathangan Meitheal grew out of this group. We got a Creative Ireland grant in 2017 through the Kildare Arts Creative Ireland programme, and our annual creative programme includes research, workshops, seminars, interdisciplinary and collaborative projects. Okay. Now, Anish, so massam go bhfuil Gaeilge gach duine. So, seo póster agus fuaimid takeíocht leis ó Foras na Gaeilge, agus rud a bhí mar a dhéanamh ná ag dul amach le na scolanna, so tá gá scolanna náisiúnta anseo, na chalíní agus na buachalaí, agus téanmar amach beidir 4 uair sa bhliain, agus an póster seo tá sé faoin sléir, bhí muid híos ag an áhain sin, agus tus níonmid ag fistrú rudaí agus bíon páistí ag déanamh líneacht ar na notebooks, agus bíon siad ag déanamh íoscaireacht, agus ag fechad ar na feithidí, agus an sin ag dul thar go dtí an labhairt beag I Rahamán, agus ag cruthú rudaí cosúla, little creatures cosúla sin. Agus seo ceann eile, seo ceann ó rinneamar le clananna, ná níle na scolanna, agus bhí sé anna simúl, cos bhí mar an ann dul amach ar an portaigh, agus bhí ceann den forann icólaíocht ó Bordamóna ling ag an am, Dr. Catherine Farrell is tá sí book a raig go postella, ach bíon an forann icólaíocht tugann siad an takeíocht doing. So just saying here that this one here is out on the bog. We had a senior ecologist for Bordamóna at the time, and the by and large Bordamóna ecology team has been hugely supportive of the project and engaging with things that involves families and the community. So you can see here again that they're running around and they're checking out things and they're finding insects, and Eugene, you might spot the green butterfly up here, Eranonian. So again, just a really interesting place to go. Anish, this tugan an sean an seo níos mó sense of cadatá hála anish. So this was roughly a year and a bit ago. COVID was still around, as you can see with the masks. So bhíomar amwe an portaigh like taobh amháin cíann tú just na machines agus scachrod, ach taobh eile cíann tú píosa beag the sphagnum ag fás I drains, agus nuair a héan tú further sús cían tú remnant. Ach níl méidir ná an daoine a thógan go dtí an remnant go fór. So just saying there that it's not possible to take people to where the remnant is a very special remnant there, but we'll get into that in a minute. So this just gives you a sense of working with TY students who are full of questions and ask some really good questions about why are they looking at the type of turbines that are not particularly ideal to be looking at the moment for a potential wind farm in this area. There's a proposed plan. It hasn't come through yet, but there's great concern. We certainly would have great concern in relation to just the amount of digging and the amount of water that would have to be drained away in order to put it down in relation to this really good bog remnant. Now, Anish, seo é kids den spagnum atá ag fás go fóil an remnant seo. So is showed is docha. So it's a real jewel to have, very, very special. So Tommy's bugan in burha fin rud seo. No. Okay, so on Kijaladan Clor agus tá Larry Fulham déanaan Larry a lán obair ar na seminars, déanaan sé a lán taide. So Tommy dig déanamh ná taide agus ag pléile cúpla ceisina. Céir atá í nán don áit don na daoine a bhí a gobaí ann don timpolacht. Tá Creative Rathangan Meitheal ar an fód le 7 bliana nús. Ón tús tá an cid is mó dat chlár blin túil dírithe ar an ceist seo a fisrú. Cad a hálíonn don na naibrethóirí an phobal áitiúil, an timpolacht agus an iirsmá bagach clonrúsc, nuair a éiríonn bord na móna as a cid eibbre san cheantar. Forgive the pun, but Creative Rathangan Meitheal is on the sod for 7 years now. We have collaborated with and gotten great support from the Bordemoni Ecology team, from the Department of Geography at Maynooth University, and from Irish Peatland Conservation Council. We continue to research and discuss questions like what is in store for this place, for the people who work there, and for Clonrúsc remnant once Bordemona complete their exit strategy. Now, our an poster show. Bhí sé déanta I 1952 measam, tá sí bhán eáil an sin. So, tá sé anna simúil go raibh siad a chur gachrú trí Gaeilge, agus tháinig méid daoine híos ón Gaeltach, ón ngach cheantar Gaeltachta, go dtí an áid seo, agus tá cúpla daoine ann go fóil, agus nuair bím hús go minic sa Gaeltacht up I Tiocanal, up in Longchalam Cille, agus bím ag déanamh roinnt eibreop an sin, agus búil mé lena lán daoine a bhí híos an seo, ag obair, just ar feadh tamil gear. So just saying there that that it's really interesting to have a look at this poster, which was focused totally on people from Irish-speaking areas, the Gaeltacht, and what they were offering. They were being offered jobs and they were being offered houses. So this was 1952, and there's still what's called the ring of houses in different areas, not in Rathangan, but just literally up the road, about 5 miles up the road in a place called Clonbelogue, and in Bracknell, there's what's called the Bordemona ring. And they're really lovely houses with great gardens at the back. The house that we're in now was built by County Council, but it was a bit like a Bordemona ring as well, but it was actually built by the County Council. And the County Council were disgusted with this initiative of Bordemonas because they offered flushed toilets, and the County Councils hadn't got to that stage yet. So great fun around these ones here. But so there's still an awful lot of people who still have links with the Gaeltacht living in this general area. Okay, so an áitina bhfuil méid níos agus cúpla rudaí a táid ag déanamh. So Oh, whoopsie daisies, horror rodagan and shit. Oh, let's get, yeah. So, tá sé den nos agin coibrú le dramana atá cosúling hain ó hef sim sa portaigh, cuasaí Cruthaitheachta, star agus taide, agus an tauci I ggóhaigs ahrú aráide. So we tend to collaborate with people and communities with a similar focus on research, bogland, creative processes of engagement and history. And obviously with a huge focus on the future of bogs within the context of climate change. So at the moment, we are working with a project called dátheangach, which means natural habitats. And it's an Arts Council funded climate action and place-based initiative. And it's actually led out by Carlow County Council with Kildare and Meath. And I'm the artist selected for the Kildare one because of my connection with this thing. So it's really interesting because we'll be looking at we've just started it really. So we've started looking at a site in Drummond Bog that some of you would know, and also a site, Gurley Bog. So I'm sure a lot of you have gone to Gurley Bog as well. Now, there's a really interesting project that Larry Fulham in particular is involved in at the moment, but it very much dovetails with some of the men that I would have worked and who have been interviewed by them. It's collaborating with the Geography Department in Maynooth, and it's supported by the Royal Irish Academy. So it's a little bit like you, Michael. There's a great character who comes around with his special tape recorder kit. But he was somewhere recently and Larry helps him with the questions because he knows people. And suddenly this guy realized, oh shoot, I forgot to put the recorder on. So usually they don't go for a second. Usually they manage to get a second take. Now, so beag nach even there. So an tauci an future. So le feiscin an seo tá an narrow gauge railway, Susan Pulcrum ó níosma bagach hús an sin, uaireanta bíonn muid an a búrtha faoin tauci. Ach sin ráite tá siad de gúilgus oring bheithe gníomh ar chun an timpeallacht bagach. Ní hé amháin ar son an seóid atá ging I glún rúsc, ach an na deisna atá an ó héamh tracks don pobl áitiúil agus do riine ó chillatír atá sim acu sa timpeallacht bagach. So really there, what I'm talking about is this narrow gauge railway, which as you can see is still being used a bit, but they've been taking all the rails down, and we had sort of thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to have some sort of tracks held on place for a while to see if we can get access, because there has been talk about us being able to get access for walkways for the community. There has also been some rewetting done on the Clonrusk bog, but it hasn't been easy since COVID to actually keep communication going in a decent way with Bord na Móna, with the exception of the ecology team. And our sense is that it's getting more and more difficult for them as well within the context of ecology and Bord na Móna, but it's a tricky one. So as you can see here, our key concerns would be the possibility of the wind turbines and what it might mean, and then this wonderful piece of pulchrum, sphagnum pulchrum, which actually doesn't grow in many places. I'm not too sure what that means, but it's a really beautiful one, and it's called golden pulchrum. So we're always looking for something that maybe we can find something that isn't anywhere else, and that we can say, look, you can't do anything with this place. So that's one angle we're going down. So buchas mór le gach duine le éisteach leis an rud seo. And so thanks to everybody for listening to this, and just to say that there, we've a lot of people that we collaborate with, as I mentioned before, and Community Wetlands Forum in particular is just such a great body to be involved in. And I mean, we've been involved almost from the start, and I've been over to Eugene and I've met the two Canadians. I remember chatting with you on the bog. in Terrell's Pass. And just that little drawing there on the right-hand side, sphagnum spores fly. So I would always be imagining, and hopefully somebody else would imagine as well, that idea of like, it's amazing that the spores from the sphagnum, when they shoot out the little spores, or the capsules rather, shoot out the little spores, that they can land. They can land and they can survive. My understanding is that they can survive for about 3 years. So I have this dream that, because it is amazing, there's still little, even in very badly sort of disturbed places, there are still tiny little bits of sphagnum growing. Like in where I showed you along the railway tracks, if you go to a ditch and if you go to an area of very, very cut away bog, but it's still sort of partial cut away, you will actually see the drowned kitten, cuspidatum, and a few other lads as well, but in particularly cuspidatum, sphagnum cuspidatum. So there's always hope. But there are times when you would get a bit down on yourself, but you can't, that it's so important to keep focused and keep working on it. So, Sinead, gur maigev.
Míle gur míle maichas, Monica. Yeah, vision here similar or fad agus just like leis faoin maidir bret a galarái agah Rathangan, so gur míle maichas a sin. Yeah, when my soltas. So Bugamage Rai and ish just take on taskmantish Ríonach Ní Neill last but not least. And I'm just going to give me 2 seconds while I share my screen. So to Sudagum Commission on ish in Equal and ish. So yeah. Shot passing this le Ríonach Ní Neill on group Ciotóg gConamara has.
And as if I'd been on kind to be in sort of Ibrisha, le dini tev modern Gaeilgecht. Beg ta Gaeilge agus Berla gach Schlaunon. There's English on every slide as well. So Milliam agus Mavin Makaintro hapig del Meitheal Ráth Iomgháin. Ach, Mavi Makaintro hapig just abile Marias. So ta misha kaint nacht fui togra píolótach athchóirithe portaigh portaigh ionain. Agus Sheachtain chéad togra athchóirithe brathmhairteach sa Gaeltacht. So tá muid i bhfad i bhuaigh tá a bhfad níos mó a torlú an taobh Heard an tunin ná tá an taobh hir. Agus is tócha go difriocht eile a bhfad leis an tógra seo ná go muid caint faoi brathmhairteach agus ní portaigh ord. So seo an Atlantic blanket bag ó muid a caint faoin seo. Is cófortíocht an tógra píolótach idir Mochanpáint is ealaíontóir Ciotóg atá a feimúir san an phobal. Údarás na Gaeltachta agus fuireann EU Life Multi-Peat an éireann atá lonathe in Ulscail na Gaillimhe. Chéad sean eile de Meitheal. Yeah, come on. So just maidir leis na partneri. So my hastings white, you can read the English on one side and I'm on topic. So údarás na Gaeltachta ná sais an IDA na Gaeltachta. Tá siad an is an ferbert acnamúl na Gaeltachta ach an príomh aim atá acu, nó an príomh job atá acu ná an Gaeilge sna ceantacha Gaeltachta chéamhnú agus a chuinál mar hain go bio, so a living language. Chomáile sin rud tá antáchtach ar fad faoi údarás na Gaeltachta ná gur únéirí móra portaigh. They're a major peatland owner. Tá thart ar 2,000 acra ag údarás na Gaeltachta I gConamara amháin, agus thart ar 4,000 acra acu ar fud na ceantacha Gaeltachta. So they have around 4,000 acres in the Gaeltacht, and that would be like Atlantic seaboard. So blanket bog. Antáchtach ar fad. Agus le cúpla bliana nús tá aim acha an Gaeltacht glas, tá aim ach na mólacha. Deir siad hain gur I déanna iarracht fostaíocht agus eacnamaíocht na Gaeltachta a láidrú gur déanach dochar go rinneadar dochart an timpplacht agus go móáiló go fásacha sin agus ferbert inmhúnathe an Gaeilge glas a bheith díú sin. So they recognize that in trying to generate an economy in the Gaeltacht since they were established, that they did damage the environment and now have a Gaeltacht glass or a sustainable economic aim. Here can na partneri technóla atá gain sa Ciotóg seo ná EU life. So tá fear tan tá gal gain go bhfuil Terry Morley ón Ryan tiolóireachta, Níl Brolacháin ón Ollscoil Chuma, agus Piers a Gibbon is ecolaí agus is ecolaí Gaeilge ón counter. So tá siad siúd mar cinál na partneri technóla agus Terry athchóirithe atá I gceannas an obair athchóirithe. So tá, tá na sainiolaithe mar tá pleiste gom faoi na tógaí fud Community Wetland Forum tá sainiolaithe iontacha mar fortnéirí againn. Next le hell. Agus in sin I suppose begáín difriúla seo nach cuiste poblbal an ach go hála seo deascar an tóga seo as obair ealaíontóir. So tám sin lonathe tá Ciotóg lonathe sa Gaeltacht ó 2008. Agus táid tá 6 ebre dhéanam Ciotóg fréamhaithe leis a bobbal. So in sin gcónaí a díriú ealaíon agus an phobal, ealaíon agus an phobal, agus céad slán an eile le hell. Tháinig an tógra píolótach athchóirithe a deascar se as an tógra ealaíonna leis ó baintenéir. So bhunaigh mé blian go leithó hin inis. So it's ceanstig an chéad chlór gníomh cruthaíocht an éróid. It's the first of the Creative Ireland, the Creative Climate Action Fund projects a bhí an. So ag breanú conas tá rá bhail mór sa Gaeltacht tá an athrú éróide agus tá an methnú bás na teangain. So the Gaeltacht has 2 existential threats, climate change and sea level rising, and also the death of the language, and they're linked. So an le baintenéir tá de breanúir conas go féidir an teanga agus tradiisiún na háite a úsáid chun todhchaí chorbónathe a bhaintach agus athchóirithe boga weig choras atá bunathe charbón na ró, go dtí choras atá bunathe charbón a chéimhnú. Céad ceann eile. So go banúsach seo an sean Gaeltacht, céad ceann eile Meitheal. Agus beidir go seo an chean chéad an Gaeltacht uair. Nach gailen muid an nasc leis an talamh, nach gailen muid an nasc leis an teanga, but actually go mbíonn an teanga ag fás, agus ag afheochan, agus a cuma teanga focail nua, dus na tradiisiún agus nós na nua atá úsáid a gine inis le haid todhchaí déchorpónathe bheith againn. Céad ceann eile le hell. So, cábhail muid, ráitís nach mbíonn daoine and taobh seo tíre rovinnic, in case you're not familiar with here. Táid lasmuid just transition counties, no just transition for peatland communities in the West. So táid má bhreanaí tá an portaigh I lár an SAC. Tá sé idir tá sé ó Dheasa Uachtarard, ó Thuaidh weig Rosavíl agus siar weig Gaeilge. Agus níor osclaíoch an portaigh seo go dtí 1985. So ní raibh bóthar isteach a bertaach go dtí 1985. Agus is iad údarás na Gaeltachta oscail an bóthar isteach a bertaach seo. Le go méocht daoine in an, móinehhaint agus go méid neamhsplach foiineh. So this bog, Finnon, which is in Sheachtain, the road between Russellville and North, it only opened in the 80s. Think if they'd only managed to not do it. And it was done with all the best intentions to make the local community fuel independent and to give possible, to stem the absolute, flood, the emigration flood. But farrier tá morchite ó Yaris. So tá hartar céad chuig stripe se Bertha shot is around 159 stripes, which are rented out the Moin Charta, so Turbury rights to the local community. Kunigert? Agus so tá há stripe again. So that should just those the stripe ní tá gachtain eile. The há stripe again taobh the clay fecin sibh go hart há acra portaigh all-in nar buineach Meitheal go raibh feibhna éigin le Ríonach. So just dagad ré agus níor buineach é agus tá níos móna ceir a bhéidir móna an. Agus an taobh eile in sin tá portaigh rá acra de portaigh iadithe stróice as a chéile in rag order. So we've two types. We've an uncut bog, more than 4 meters of peat in it, which is, for raised bog, that's a lot. If it's not raised bog, sorry, portaigh, blanket bog, that's deep. And then the other stripe is much more typical of the place. It's in rag order, absolutely cut down to the leach, to the stone in much of it. So níl go nach chuig acra she bug bídach. So faoi láthair tá muid labhairt tríd bliana héan agus so blian seo tá muid ag tós ag monitóireacht ag fólam. Tá muid tá tósna going tan na písa míos a máthagain ag tós level airde an isce in san dá stripe. Tá astíochtaí gas cappa tasa, so na GHGs, ó hóis an taobh iadithe agus leis an óhfuil sin tá an ollscoil nó na portaigh ag déanamh measúnú céimhéad astíochtaí a bheith faoi a laidú agus céimhéad móna carbón a bheith faoi a cheappa tríd an dástripe a ealaíocha agus a athchóirithe. Agus ruaid an táachta fuair seo ná these are very typical. These are stripes. There's 160 of them around us. So ma dhéanamid a gart an seo hiad, ma eicimid cad gur féidir dhéanamh le seo, déit bhí nó chéanna béidir, táchaí agus féidir an argóintí dhéanamh go cóir sé dhéanamh leis an chuideile. So these are hopefully will inspire other Turbury right owners to kind of do with us. Chiad ceanile? So bliana dó in sin tosnófar an obair athchóirithe agus mar a bhecinn sibh tá sé dúshlánach go maith. So it's going to be super challenging. Mar a bhecinn sibh an leach an seo tá Conamara lán le cloch éiver agus tá an cloch éiver in seo ar taobh ná bheith lé tá sí chó bán agus tá sí chó garbh. Meitheal nar wachas I le ceirh fíle bliananos. So the granite that's being exposed is so rough. It's like a cat's tongue because it hasn't had any erosion on it in 4,000 years, and now it's open and like a wound. So a lot of work to be done. Chiad ceanile? Tá muid chomáis an obair physical a bertach, tá muid ag déanana taide múnlí nua uncam a láthair tríd sa láthair eiceseirbhísí agus díolach an creid feasa carbón de úna ré Moin Charta. Agus sé sin go hiomlán bunathe an obair tá déanta ag ealaíocht ag ceirpeat agus atá imón ag multipeat. Agus tá muid ag riint an tólas sin agus muid á ólam le muint na háte, because the economic driver, the economic worth of the Turbury rights and of bogs is a major factor for decision making here. So caha muid a huspoint rini go will go féidlo úsáidile atá gomadan fertach agus gomada bóca go féidir úsáidile a bhaint as a bertach. Chiad ceanile le hel? Tá muid chomáile sin danhui a go baint úsáid as a bertach martá á dhéanamh ag an unspráid tá feite weg Winter Community Wetland Forum tá sé bhíontach. So is Scail Faoin Spéir or School Under the Sky atá an seo chomá. Tá cuire ag an phobal a gcónaí portaigh lachas san obair maidir san obair athchóirithe agus bíon imachtaí ealaíontóir agus ealaíochta siúl ar a bertach agus chomá leis an faoin fertach. So siúlóidí bithe agsúlachta agus má chuimhní muid gur Gaeilge a bhí ar chuile dal rud ar a bertach sul a raibh béarla ar. So if we remember that everything on the bog was named in Irish before it ever had an English name. So tá Gaeilge agus pertach just le chéile. Agus tá muid a géirí an tólas sin a chaomhnú agus thuirt hachada go dtína glúinte eile agus amó. So, you don't have to be a local to join us at all. And there in the picture, the second on the left here, Shin Pertach Shanachai, that's Shanachai Bog. Agus Homer Trus Gadi Shanachai, agus Barry O'Loughlin and Shin and Echoly Rinnan Ober, Ata Usa Gormach, agus be fear unsproid father fad. É sin, tá muid ag súile cuairt thuairt chuitas an obair tá dhéanamh ag Wild Atlantic Nature chumá agus beidir in rinne bliana dul go dtí Ballydangan an páirteach atá athchóirithe ag an Club Gunny I Roscommorn. So we're trying to make connections outside of Conamara as well. Agus Blanú chumá rinne mé ceardan faoi bratóirí cáileach so cad a hálíonn nuair a chun tú món iad a hachéin agus an caidan bhí iad a hach nuair bhíonn tú dómóna. So more awareness as well about the health implications of burning turf. Not good if you're at all nervy or an asthmatic. Bhí sensor gumsa in mahach dihíomhar agus heart attack central, really, a bhíonn san tólas a bhí a teachtamachas. Chiad ceanile? So, mar dúirs tá Gaeilge an Gaeltacht agus an fertach ní féidir iad a scara ó na chéile. So tá sé mar aimimeh an tógra seo an dlú cheangail idir muinte na Gaeltachta agus an fertach a neartú. Ní amháin tríd banistú inmhúnathe portaigh arbeit go háú ach tríd ealaí na Gaeilge agus na Gaeltachta a chuinál ar chóchéim le cleachtais nua portaigh. So tá éireacht láidir a gcuin maidir le sealabaint feamaine, sealabaint móna, an fertach an fertach an fertach. Tá sios na háráin, tá sios na drámaí, tá sios na ealaíocht, tá si tá fiúin ná na cainte. But bainin siad le a bheith ag buint ag mianadóireacht móna. Agus ní, cahamid cuinál sús tá móna nua a tastáhain le go méid ar éireacht agus ar gultúr ag cuinál sús le na nósan na nua. So tá áráin scéalta filiacht agus nósan na nua de dhí airn. We need to keep the language and cultural practices in step with new relations with the bog. So tá cúpla a dhéanamh rinne mé comisiúnú ar Ciotóirí áitiúla tá áráin nua againn inis agus fiúháin an nós an anad bheith tá daoine an tócaí le caint faoi an cólúdar bhí acu ar na Meitheal móna agus an copa an taigh ar a bertach. So thugamar solar panel sústain agus hé siad siúd an isce, so if bhí taigh againn ar a bertach tá spántas nua ealaíonna teacht san airech faoi a rís cinál saoil nua agus saolaíocht nua don fertach. So tá gára a tarlún tám go léir ná an obair practical maidir leis an portaigh agus an tobar leis a bubble. Oh, sorry, céad ceann eile bhíle a hell. Yeah, there's down on one Ellen. Yeah, just skip because massam nachhul amagum. Vís chun ceol a hinnim díh, but so just a creach no leis on you rinne me Sheachtain Sheachtain na Gaeilge ná on this cartoon Mornará is like Ríonach. This cartoon is from 2009 and unfortunately is not out of date. So Cian fág a cordon is a dhéanamh is meru watha gcónaí atá an. You know, cad tá dhéanamh go curgás nach raibh annach curgéil agus greibh muid hééis saoil níos fearr a chluthú gan cúis. So for the deniers out there, but what it's somebody asking, looking at all the advantages of climate action, but what if it was all just, oh, I don't know the English for curgéil, pretend, and what if it wasn't real, and that we were after creating a better life for no reason. So, Ciotóg. Ríonach,
yeah, is sin fair similar fad. When me solta sin agus tílam goró an slide on Ríonach sin on a cruthaitheach or fad. So yeah, thanks a million. That was really interesting. Now we are, I suppose, technically Harama. just gone labhairt ní athchóirithe. So and I'm conscious, you know, it's an evening time. So we mightn't have too many questions. And I mean, if anyone at this stage obviously would like to log off, that's completely understandable. But if you are, for those of you, I maybe suggest 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, just seeing as we had such fantastic, you know, presentations. So, once you shouldn't calculate.
Yep, top.
Yeah. So, just to cash the one, it's a chat on chat o Cindy, and it's everything. So it's cash for Ríonach. Everything on the bog had names in Irish before the English versions. Is there a list or other source of these names available anywhere?
Yes, indeed. You know, I'll root out stuff and I'll share it through Meitheal, because actually there's a lot of source material, but it's not that easy. I realize when you're outside the Gaeilge, it's not so easy to get. So yes, there is one, just because it's absolutely gorgeous, even though it's not all, it's not all, it's not focused on the bog, but there is a website called Flora Chasharige, and Sheachtain, I think, will push with it, will add to it, but it's gorgeous. So yes, I will find them, because I can't think of them right now, and I'll share them, and you'll see. Yeah, but it's also needs, we have to invent new words all the time. Like, I don't know about you, but I wasn't saying peatland restoration as a word 10 years ago, and I actually totally disagree with it as a word, because it makes people think that once they wet the bog it'll grow back, and you're going, so the thing I use is to say to people, look at your fingernail, and if they're as bitten as mine, that's a year, that's 2 years, so it's not going back to what you cut it at. So well, you know, it's not just the Irish that we need new words for.
Gormagat, Tommy Mahoney in Canada. So there's very little Irish available for me here, and I'm struggling. I work a lot with kids. What is a chipmunk? In Sean Glen, it says it's a ground squirrel. I've created my own word, Eora Ravog, a little striped guy, because ground squirrel is a totally different animal. So I'm looking forward to your list of words that I can use. Thank you.
I know that there's an Irish department in Newfoundland, in maybe it's Halifax or something like that. But there is there's somewhere there where an Irish-speaking person comes over and is like a visiting fellow every year.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Whereabouts in Canada are you?
I'm in Ontario, and at the moment, University of Toronto has somebody. And I don't know if there's anybody now, but last year there was somebody in Kingston that I met. Yep. I contacted Memorial in Newfoundland. They have nobody at the moment, but so it kind of floats back and forth.
Yeah, there's the Irish Canada University Foundation that sends scholars over to the universities in Canada every year, like Ottawa, Toronto, Memorial, I believe, Montreal. And these scholars come over on scholarships and they teach Irish in the local community for the year.
The fellow that's at University of Toronto right now, I'm taking an online course with him with a large group. He can't give me any environmental words. Every time I say, well, how would I say? Oh, I don't know that I've ever heard that word, which is probably related to what you said about the words just aren't there and stuff, you know.
They are there. They're definitely there. They're definitely. We've the variety of word for the different level of dryness and wetness of a sod. You know, the scrah, which is the vegetation on the top, and that kind of mat, and the scrah was used to line the back of your fireplace. So that, and then you'd put your fold mona down and like a nice dry little, like completely dry, nearly like coal. Is a cuiron, which is like a berry. Like there's more detail in it than a different detail than there is in English. And there's a different ideas of the animals as well.
Cuireann Marcon McGann is sin anúil doing freshen in a lower 30 words for field, you know. And
yeah. Agus bailíonn se iad waig daoine. Yeah. Déta se leabhar a ailsiú bhíon fearrta chuma.
Yeah, that book came up the other day, and he said he didn't recognize most of the words that were in that book. He wasn't sure what they were talking about. So
I've heard people that people have spoofed Monaghan about. They've made up words and told Monaghan that they're for real. But that's, you know, town go bio.
Yeah,
living language.
Yeah. Well, no, Vicky Shin for Samuel Ríonach Ní Neill, yeah, listen, no opinion. Yeah.
So Sheachtain took a gumsa in NMD Cawhfuil the Rattling Bog. Hey, the Rattling Bog, the bog down in the valley. This again, you Cawhfuil and I.
I shouldn't Monica now. Monica, can go with Shinaka live shit?
Could be in.
Éidir go mé a bíon Larry ag Conú go minic, so masan go mé is ag Larry. You know? So, yeah, you're fi mé amach.
Okay, very well. Agus Ceis beag eile céir is Turbury an bhíon focail sin the taspáint as Ríonach Turbury writes no ní hiige mé sin.
So in Gaeilge ná móin chearta, Turbury writes ná so Béarla agus is é an ceart cad móin a wint. So ní leat an talamh.
Yeah, okay.
No beidir gur leat ach yeah, bíonn cad agat móin a wint in áit. So le údarás na Gaeltachta faoin tú stripe cías demlíana agus tugann se an cheart deit an móin a wint an stripe sin feadh demlíana. So na Turbury writes 10-year Turbury writes agat. Agus tá sé sin fud na haireann nach bhfuil? That's everywhere. Yeah.
Tá sé, I Bealach Tíorlaigh tá sé an freisin tá na daoine a bhí ina cónaí Bealach Tíorlaigh, you know, going back generations tá Turbury writes acu ach bhí Turbury writes acu chun món a bhaint as Clúncró bog. Agus, yeah, ach tá áit an eile will the residents actually own the bog. It's in their, if it's in their deed, you know, it's actually in their folio that they actually own it. When I show that map of Cloncrow Bog, nearly the whole bog is actually owned by resident people in the village, but then other people would just have turbary rights. It came, I think, like in the Midlands anyway, from when the bogs were owned generally by, you know, the local landlord. He would have given his tenants turbary rights. In other words, he would have given them a stretch of the bog that he allowed them just to cut the turf and to harvest the turf from, but they didn't actually own it. But they had the right to actually to extract peat just for domestic use.
Gomininic bíonn turbary right, ní turbary ownership, but turbary rights le folios. Tá turbary right ag mo roifuair I Meitheal. So ní an portaigh, ach tá cadacha tá cadacha an portaigh a bhaint. And then rud atá anna chasta agus dachar san iarthar ná an cimín. So an cimín ná an comanage.
All right, yeah.
Agus déit faoi go méach 60 8 duine gur leo an chimín. Agus farir gomininic, aber I Rosmach d'oibre mé fortach I Rosmach. Agus níl éisacha cévé duine gur leo an chimín, agus tá siad a Canada, tá siad America, tá siad san Astráil. So nuair a hastíonn swait éon rud a dhéanamh, tá sé dóhéanta. Agus is féile únéar a bháin cimín an áit go léir a scris.
Tragedy of the commons.
Yeah, commons is
Sensible. Yeah. On Bidger and Fogumage and Sinead on Ihan no one will Bidger cash the one cash Ríonach again, yeah, but she them go.
But William said, you know, thanks to Meitheal, you know, on webinar show to organise this great webinar, and it's great to see that it's taken on such an international dimension, like with the 3 people from Canada.
Yeah,
brilliant.
No, Sinné agus gur mé mai agus bhfuil Gary had the Eugene Monica agus Ríonach as páirte glachu agus we're scéile a rinch lin agus, you know, tá sé fear inspiráideach sílam agus tábhachtach an you know an uppertá galarái agus. So just big thanks to Eugene, Monica and Ríonach for taking part and sharing your work with us, and for I think it was I enjoyed certainly having the fact that it was a bilingual event. I think that was really nice, and Ríonach, you know, he touched on it, I suppose, the nasca deir stoi and Gaeilge and Changa agus mathna Changa stoi agus, you know, an cinneal an trid idir ginne ahrú airide, so tá sé fitte sílam. So yeah, sin beidir go bog mit sin agus just wish you all a good evening, and thanks again. I can send I can certainly send the video recording, and then if the presenters are happy for me to do so, I'd be happy to, you know, I can send.
By Desha got to Eugene.
It's figure Eugene no to me.
I'll send you the script and you can do it.
Don't worry.